announced the theme chosen for the 2023 World Population Day as Unleashing the Power of Gender Equality, uplifting the voices of women and girls to unlock our world of infinite possibilities. She says the theme will serve as a call to action for relevant authorities to promote women and girls' empowerment through inclusive leadership and equal opportunities in mainstream governance. Soccer made as the Borno State government, led by Babagana Zulum, recently provided free transport assistance to farmers in according to the Special Advisor on Media and Strategy, Malam Isa Gusel, 50 buses and 30 pickup vans have been allocated to transport farmers to their farms at no cost, and this initiative will help to reduce the transportation cost for the farmers. The governor's decision to release 80 vehicles is intended to alleviate the financial burden on farmers caused by the fuel subsidy removal, in which out of these vehicles, 50 luxurious buses from the Borno Express Corporation's fleet will be used, and the state government will hire the remaining 30 pickup vans. Now to Egypt. In a bid to enhance the country's production capacity, Egypt has set aside $1.8 billion to drill 35 new gas wells across the Mediterranean Sea, the Nile Delta, and the Western Desert by 2025. The announcement was made by the Egyptian Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, Tarek El Molla, during the 8th OPEC International Seminar held in Vienna. Under the initiative, 21 gas wells will be drilled during the fiscal year 2023 to 2024, followed by another 14 in the subsequent year. Major international companies such as Eni, Chevron, ExxonMobil, and BP will be involved in this with the Egyptian petroleum sector. El Molla highlighted the efforts of the Egyptian petroleum sector and its international partners in exploring new oil and gas resources. Oil and gas production adequately meets most of its energy needs. According to him, fossil fuels account for 93% of Egypt's primary energy sources, catering to approximately 75% of domestic consumption. He also provided insights into the oil market's outlook for the next year, stating that the OPEC will adapt decisions in response to market changes and supply dynamics. Now to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's cabinet has officially declared an end to the prolonged power outages that had severely impacted businesses and the economy in the country. The government expressed this satisfaction during a cabinet meeting and also expressed satisfaction with the announcement made by the state-owned power utility, Zimbabwe Electricity Supply Authority, ZESA, regarding the stop of load shedding, the rotational supply cuts implemented to manage electricity shortages. The country attributes the power shortages to increased economic activity, particularly in the mining sector, as the expansion in mining operations has led to a surge in power demand. The Zimbabwe Power Co.'s website pegged power production at about 1,318 megawatts, while the national electricity demand was estimated to be around 2,200 megawatts. This declaration by the cabinet marks a significant milestone for Zimbabwe, signaling the alleviation of power outages that had been hampering the country's businesses and overall economic stability. In the UAE, in order to provide crucial insights and promote early years learning, development, social cohesion, and improved service quality, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi and Chairman of the Abu Dhabi Executive Council, Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, has inaugurated the Childhood Insight Lab in Abu Dhabi. The launch of the event, which was attended by Sheikh Thaya bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Chairman of the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority, was a great one. During the launch, Sheikh Khalid and Sheikh Thaya reviewed the lab's plans and initiatives to use data-driven storytelling techniques to promote learning. The Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority, which is responsible for developing the lab, will collect and analyze data that focused on the challenges facing citizens during early childhood from 11 Abu Dhabi government entities. Talks between delivery company UPS and its U.S. workers have collapsed, and if not managed well, this could lead to the first strike in over 25 years. While it is noteworthy that UPS has the largest unionized workforce of any United States company. Negotiations between the company and its employees have been ongoing for months, focusing on demands for higher pay and improved working conditions. The workers feel they deserve a better contract, particularly considering the increased workload during the pandemic. President of the Teamsters, which represents about 340,000 full and part-time workers at UPS in the United States, Sean O'Brien, claims the delivery company has the resources to provide for its workers but is unwilling to do so. But UPS argues that its offer builds on industry-leading pay and urges the union to continue negotiating to avoid further issues. A UPS walkout could cause significant disruptions to the United States economy as the company delivers over 24 million packages daily in more than 220 countries, and its handling value accounts for about 6% of the United States economy. Now to England. In support of government's cost-saving agenda, railway companies in England are set to close a significant number of ticket offices as part of efforts to modernize the rail network. The Rail Delivery Group, RDG, the industry body which represents train operators, confirmed the plan to shut down almost all of the remaining 1,007 ticket offices within 3 years, except those located at the busiest stations. The RDG stated that ticket office staff will be redeployed to station platforms and concourses to assume new and engaging roles. However, concerns have been raised about potential job losses, especially by the Railway Management Union, describing it as a harsh attack on railway workers, passengers and their families. The union claimed that operators had issued statutory redundancy notices affecting hundreds of staff members. Now, the government of Switzerland has expressed its interest in participating in the European Sky Shield Air Defense, which was established by Germany in 2022 to enhance European air defense. Similarly, Swiss Defense Minister Viola Amherd is scheduled to sign a declaration of intent to join the program during a meeting with her Austrian and German counterparts on Friday. To date, 17 European countries, including Germany, Britain, Finland and Sweden, have joined the Sky Shield project. The initiative aims to streamline costs by coordinating the procurement of air and missile defense systems, such as the Patriot missile system, among participating countries. It also seeks to facilitate cooperation in training, maintenance and logistics, but Switzerland's neutrality advocates have expressed concerns about this development. And that concludes our news update for today. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to bring you the latest news and stories that matter. Remember to stay connected by following Souk News on all social media platforms. Also, do well to engage with our posts and share them with your loved ones. I am Olaoluwawe. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to Early Exchange.
Staying tuned. It's still Early Exchange on Souk News, and thank you, Olaoluwawe, for that update in the world of business. A number of issues came up that made headlines, and there I was impressed because, yes, the economic thrust of the present administration of Bola Tinubu is actually impressive. Like, it's in the news that he had a meeting yesterday with global financial institutions to collaborate, asking them to collaborate with us to ensure that we can enhance the quality of our gas so we can export. We know that there is so much gas flaring. If you go to the Niger Delta, you see gas being flared everywhere. And this is like burning cash away. We are talking about diversifying our economy, and yet we are flaring gas. But then, gas doesn't just get consumed like that in the global market. There is a particular quality that we need to set. So we are looking at that. What have you observed with respect to the quality of gas we are exporting, or the need for us to do more that warranted this collaboration?
And let's even talk about the ones we're using first. The quality, how fast does it run? how long does it last? How much does it fetch? Let's look at these points first before we go into even exporting.
Okay, I think for us to have a better perspective, we're not alone here anyway. We have with us as always our in-house analyst, Mr. Idausa. He is here with us to talk about this issue and some others that made the news. Idausa is an executive director with African Development Study Center in Abuja, and of course, he doubles as the vice chairman of Penny Walsh Limited. He is an egghead, I like to call him. Idausa, welcome on board.
Hiya, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, we look at this. Our president has called for global collaboration. We know that we rise by lifting one another. Okay? What do you see? What do you interpret this meeting to bring?
Well, if you had followed the development during the campaigns, the president was quite very, very frontal in talking about gas issues. And one of the issues he raised during the campaign was the fact that if Nigeria has invested in gas pipeline into Europe, the Ukrainian and the Russian war would have been of immense benefit to us in terms of earning. But because we're not strategic in the past, to have put in a lot of resources in building these pipelines, we have the best of gas in the whole world, really. And he's saying if we had channeled this into Europe, during this issue, the Nord 2 and 1 issues happening there, Nigeria would have just cashed in. But unfortunately, the pipes are not there. And so he emphasized that he was going to seek collaboration and seek people to invest in that sector. And not just invest in that sector, he's not even expecting to get the money immediately, that he would not mind taking the profit in future.
That is like saying sowing the seed for the future.
Future,
You
yeah.
have long-term gains, even if it is short-term pains. Okay. Now, there is this issue of ideas that was mentioned here because one of the people who attended the meeting with the man from the International Bank of America, Bernard Mensah, said that they are ready not just with financial support but with ideas. And we know that to plug into the supply chain system for an industry as complex as gas demands grade A ideas that can actually compete with anyone in the world. What do you see to this?
Well, he knows where he's coming from, and they're ready. I mean, the whole world thrives on collaboration. So if they're ready to give us this, and the president is ready to open our borders to them, why not? It's a welcome decision.
What ideas do we need to look into now?
Of course.
We have gas pipelines, like you said. What more do we need to do?
Not enough.
No, there's not
There
yet.
is not.
We have no pipeline yet. But you see, we have a president who is very broad-minded and who pioneers innovations and really, really very, let me use the word in quotes, somebody is like crazy about fresh ideas.
Yes, definitely.
And so he's open to new thinking about how things can be done. And of course, he is actually determined to see people come to contribute and see we can have what he called in his own language, shared prosperity. This is what it is. So the Bank of America is offering. But I think what is important for us and the point we should need really emphasize is not the kind of idea that is coming, is that how do we also negotiate the Bank of America so that what we are getting will not be like a very terrible facility that will have to choke us to death. So I think this is what it is. We need a lot of people to sit down with the president, review whatever that they are putting on the table, and see that it is beneficial to us in the long run.
I agree. And I think we are not lacking in human resources that can actually sit at the same table of negotiation with the U.S. or with any country in particular and bring out something positive. It will be a win-win, the way I see it. Yeah.
Well, we also want to take the World Population Day. The World Population Day comes on the 11th of July, and it comes under the theme Unleashing the Power of Gender Equality. uplifting the voices of women and girls to unlock our world of infinite possibilities. Now, I wonder why they say it's men's world, because everything seems these days and for a long time before now to favor women. So we'll be 11th of July will be another day, and the United Nations, country representative in Nigeria, has said that okay, this in celebration of this is urging the National Assembly to quickly pass the extend the passage of gender equality bill. I mean, we need balance in every strata of government. We need, as much as we have, what is really gender equality? Really, what does it mean? There is no victimization at work. Because I'm a woman doesn't mean the glass ceiling has to be broken. I mean, the glass ceiling has to be broken in workplaces. So, what do you say?
Well, I am glad with the first part of what you said, that you actually identified with us men, that you are the ones that have been given priority, and deservedly so. Yes, I wouldn't say there is no need for gender equality talk, because to a very large extent, it's still a man's world. We still live in a man's world, and
we're not in competition.
You may say that. See, the reason
there's no man's world anywhere. You see, we live in a world. It's unfortunate that we have to always come up with all this conversation. The question I always ask people is, who actually make it a man's world?
Ideas, norms, cultures.
You see, this is what we should be talking about, encouraging the people of the other gender also to be as competitive as possible, not just to put things undeservedly to them, just
After
because
all,
we're working out for gender equality.
After all, what a man
We are
can do.
having women.
Yeah,
We're doing excellently well.
that's
In the
right.
recent past, look, for example, in the JAM data, all the people that are doing the best in JAM, they are all women. So what equality do they really mean? You see, the issue is not about gender equality. The real issue that we should be talking about, especially in the third world, is the women of the third world valuing themselves without necessarily debasing and degrading themselves. That's what is required.
No, I don't.
You see, if you come to this part of the world and you go out with a woman, it's just natural that he expects that the man pay the bill. It's natural.
Is that subjective? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that the women also need to also work themselves really to build their confidence to compete with men. I asked during the last election, if women said they want to become president of Nigeria, nothing stopped them from becoming the
Well,
president.
we've seen a lot of women come out of Nigeria who are leaders.
Nothing stopped a woman from being the president of Nigeria, because in terms of population, it's tilted in their favor. So they have everything really to compete with men. But what the real issues are is the fact that, you see, this self-worth, the women need to own it. And this is seen, like you talk about harassment in the place of work. And you're wondering why somebody dressed the way he dressed, because he wants to be noticed, or somehow he wants to be favored. And so men take advantage of this vulnerability. The women should be able to take their place and see themselves as equal to men, not inferior in any sense.
Well, I think we are all being hypnotized by our past experiences in a particular context. Yes, it is easy when education comes into play for you as a woman to say, I have equal strength with a man.
Yeah.
But you know, if you go to the villages where they are largely uneducated in this part of the world, you will see that they are still in some kind of enclave in their head. I know that freedom comes from the mind. If you think you are free, then you are free indeed. But for them to get to that point of being able to think that they are free, that comes at a particular cost. And this kind of conversation that we're going to have, and we're having now, they help us to really take them to that point where they feel that they are free. Because if you don't see freedom, you can't attain it.
That has started since, and women are already taking positions. They are
Yeah.
already taking positions.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
are taking
women
their
agree,
place
sir.
in the
Yeah.
society.
Yeah, but the argument about equality is what is actually the issue. But I find even the thing very odd.
Okay.
Because, yeah, because the theme is very odd. We're talking about World Population Day, and we're talking about women equality, of right, gender equality.
Oh, you mean it should have
You see,
been-
but because the real issue is here, probably the person who is thinking this is taking it from the perspective that probably women are not educated. For us as a country in Nigeria, the biggest challenge that faces us is not even the equality thing.
So what is it?
Is the space to live by 2030, 2050.
We are part of the world.
That's the problem. That's the biggest problem.
But this is a
You see,
global thing.
this is a
not
global
a Nigerian
thing.
thing.
Yeah, but this is,
You are now
you see,
referring to Nigeria.
yes, we have to narrow it to our own problem. Because we're speaking to population. We should be able to narrow it to what affects us. We are about 220 million people as of today, officially, living in a land size of about 923,000 square kilometers. By 2050, we are told we will be 450 million people. Already, we are trying to cope with the issues of farmer headers crisis, which are resulting from the issue of migration. All grazing routes, they've all been overtaken by development. Where are we going to be living in 2050? This is the real issue. And I think this is what people should be concerned about.
This is about gender equality. Okay? Part of it will include for women, you know, when we want to, you know, x-ray that, we have a lot of issues about genital mutilation, different things affecting women. I think early marriage, different things affecting women. I think why the UN actually focuses or chose this theme is to let people know that the women cannot be subjected unduly anymore. I think that is the focus, and that should be the line of argument.
But what I'm
and
saying
Nigeria is still part of the world population.
In the part of the world where I come from.
Women are the ones who suffer after childbirth.
I had were 8 in number in the house. 4 female, 4 male.
Okay.
When you were growing up, right?
Growing up in my own father's house, we were all given equal opportunity
Okay.
to go to school, all trained to the university level. My father was an illiterate. My mother was an illiterate. See, what I'm saying is that all this argument about early childhood marriage is the fact that this decision, who is taking them? The real enlightenment issues that we should see, how do we control population growth?
Okay. Well,
Because resources is not going to increase. That for me is the greatest worry than inequality.
I see your
The
point.
passion.
Okay, sorry. I think because we're out of time for this particular segment, I see your point there. But there is a reason we keep emphasizing ideas, even in the space of marketing. Okay? There are brands in the world today that everybody knows. You would think they shouldn't talk about them anywhere in the world today, because after all, you know this soft drink brand. But then, if you don't keep mentioning these same words, gender equality, tendencies are that topics like you are advocating for might override it. And
Mitigating
we have to
and
keep
controlling
it in-
our population.
Yes.
It centers on women.
We have to keep conversations going around that until such a point when this gender believes that, yes, we are already taking care of them, that discussion will fade out by default. I believe so. Okay. It's been a very interesting conversation this morning. We can't talk enough about gender equality. I mean, that's why the women for, because, well, they make the world. They are our mothers.
And our place in the
And I
population.
know you're always on their defense anyway. This is just for the sake of, you know, setting a new line of conversation, which I think is critical. Okay. So the show is still early exchange on soup news, and we'll take a short break. Now, when we come back, we'll go into the meat of the matter that we have today. Don't go anywhere. to early exchange on soup meals. If you are a woman out there and you go to the markets often, like you should anyway, or even if you're a man that you are the one in charge of purchases, you must have observed that in recent times, the cost of food items has actually gone up. Yes, a number of factors are responsible for this. But if we zero in on agri produce, the essential food items, pepper, tomatoes, and so on and so forth, there seems to be a crisis in the market. There is this supply chain disruption in the market that is taking place now. 4 pieces of tomato go for as much as, is it 2,000 or 500? I really can't recall.
1,000,
Now,
at least in Lagos.
while we are pegging it on tomatoes, there is something bigger than that, which is the seasonality of agri produce. At a particular time of the year, you find some agri produce, in abundance.
Yes, right.
Corn in particular. Then, at that time, you are able to eat as much as you want for as low as you can get.
That's how nature designed it.
But when the rains stop, okay, what happens? It becomes
It's
expensive
sold out.
or unavailable. These and many more are the things we're going to be talking about in this particular segment. We will be talking about them. What do you think? You have been to the market.
What
on
can
this
we do? My question is, what can we do to have these products all year round? It's been done in other climes. So Nigeria should also begin to use such technology to have these goods, these products, all year round, so that we don't run out of them at all.
I'm sure you're paying more at home for
Yeah, we are paying for our ignorance, and I think that is what it is. One of the big problem we have is that there's no sufficient investment in the agricultural food chain. That's a problem, and that's why you see the greatest driver of our inflationary rate is the price of commodity, is the commodity prices. That's what drives inflations more in this part of the world. The reason is that we have not done sufficient investment in this value chain of the agriculture. Take, for example, you see wet season. There's a whole lot that people are wasting because you cannot store them. See, for me, because I believe the Jews had taught us some good lessons we should learn. If you are read in the scriptures, you see when Egypt was going to be faced with a crisis of food, the king had a dream, and Joseph interpreted the dream. Now, I think that model is still working till tomorrow.
That's right.
What was that dream? You will have 7 years of plenty, and you will have 7 years of drought. And that 7 years will be of plenty will be a child's play compared to the 7 year of drought. And then the wisdom was that build storage facilities, store 1/5 of every of your produce for the next 7 years. And that was what Egypt did. And that was how they survived the famine. Now, this is the real issue. And I think India has overcome this now because Dubai has invested a lot in a cold storage facility in India, where they can take the product from the farmer and preserve them until wet season, and then price is stable across the year. This is what is needed at the moment. That we need to put a whole lot of investment in the cold storage facility, especially for these perishable items.
I think for the sake of our viewers there, if that report is read or that short video clip about tomatoes and how expensive they are in the market now, can we just have it? Do we have it now?
The rising cost of tomatoes in Nigeria has become a major experience as its impact on household, local businesses and the culinary landscape. Of course, if we do not reach out to those that are directly involved, we might just be uncertain with the measure of its impact. This is Sangros Market on Lagos Island, and we are here to hear the opinions of the market sellers, the tomato sellers, and of course, the consumers. Tomatoes are popular and widely used ingredients in our cooking in most parts of the world and mostly in Nigeria. They are known for their vibrant red color, rich flavor, and versatility in various dishes. Tomatoes are not only used as a base for soups, stews, and sauces, but also play a significant role in enhancing the taste and appearance of many traditional Nigerian meals. In some certain areas in the country, the current report on tomatoes outlined its rising cost and how it is impacting the culinary scenes of homes and businesses. Having noticed this recent increase in prices, customers and sellers has reacted on how it hits on not just the businesses but also household budgets, making it hard to get their desired quality and amount of food.
It's very hard for men to give wife money for food. It's hardly. All the foods assorted is very costly, and we don't know where Nigeria is going now.
We bought this tomato basket 40,000. You see this Cameroon tomato? This basket, it's 30,000 from the market. It's not what will I say? It's new news anymore. Everybody knows that now. Tomatoes is very, very expensive. If you have any other words to use, I think you can use it for it. But first 1 week now, I stopped selling. Apart from that, I wanted to rest, but I don't know, it's not bringing out, we're not even seeing our capital, talk less of gain.
Everything is expensive in the market. We can't buy pepper worth 5,000 to cook at home and be satisfied. The government should help us. A basket now sells between 50 to 70,000. Tomatoes is now very expensive and we can't afford to buy the quantity that we want. We are uncomfortable with all these policies. The government should help us.
Food sellers have also lamented about the soaring price, though tomatoes have the processed forms which are meant for extended use, such as tomato paste, tomato puree, and canned tomatoes. But rather than opting for these as alternatives, some respondents noted their deep appreciation for the taste and freshness of locally grown tomatoes.
Our suppliers from the north said transport fare has increased due to hike in the price of petrol. Some of them are even being killed by bandits in their farms. There is insecurity everywhere. We buy this basket of tomatoes for as low as 5,000 before, but very close to Salah celebration, the price has doubled.
The tomato is very expensive. Look at this pepper now, this is 3,000 naira. It's not even enough. I will still add another one because of the food that I'm selling is plenty. I've already bought one. This mama have already come because I've already bought 4,000 one, and this is another 3,000 naira.
Ensuring the high quality ingredients for their meals. While many seek government involvement, noting the course of the surge, it is hoped that this current situation will eventually change to a more favorable one for all. In Lagos, Grace Komalafe, Sook News.
Welcome back.
There are two main agricultural seasons in Nigeria. We have the rainy season and the dry season. You know, during the rainy season, you see lots of vegetables, you see maize, sorghum, and stuff like that. But once it's dry season, which is like from November to March, I think, you know, to see all those things become almost impossible. So I wonder why, what are farmers doing? Can't we store, like Idahosa has said, ahead? What can we do? So I go to my first point of discussion.
Okay.
So how can small farmers in the country, you know, mitigate the effect of the seasonal, you know, seasonality of the agricultural produce? What can we do?
Smallholder farmers?
What can we do?
I think it's beyond the capacity of smallholder farmers. We still think of agriculture in the context of hoes and cutlasses.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried that before. It never worked.
But there will always be smallholder farmers?
Yes, smallholder farmers, what they should do essentially is latch on to available technologies, storage technology that can create some kind of stability in the supply chain ecosystem.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a farmer that should do that.
Yes, that's what I'm going.
You see, what you're looking at is the man just produces in the farm, and that's it. Somebody take that which is produced from the farm. And I think the current president has also spoken to this in his Renew Hope agenda, that he's going to work toward re-establishing what he called commodity boards.
Yes.
And what that will do is that you're having middlemen who take this product from the farmers and pay them probably sometimes in advance and take the product from them, and they can store and redistribute. So I think that's what is really required at the moment, because the small old farmers cannot actually build facilities to store.
They don't have that.
They don't have the financial muscle. They don't have the technology. So this is going to be very difficult, and this is why we talk about investment in this value chain. So maybe probably if we have commodity boards who will not just take undue advantage of farmers, but will invest in that value chain. Now, another issue that we also need to talk about is the logistics issues.
From farm to table.
From farm to table. Thank God in the news we heard that Zulum has bought some vehicle to help farmers bring their products from the farm to the marketplace. But how 30 pickup vans will do in a population of over 3 million people, I don't know. But I think it's a step in the right direction, because logistics is a huge challenge. Because the cost of moving the product from the north down south is also a huge addition to the cost of these products. And don't also forget, Salah just got passed, and people have been celebrating. The law of demand and supply also affects cost of products in the market. So if you have less supply and the demand is high, naturally price will go up.
You see, this issue of supply chain, logistics, in farming in particular, is very critical. I know the story of a group of boys. 5 of them came together after secondary school education. Yes, government has always said young people should go into farming, and they latched on to that particular detail, that advice. Okay, let us go into farming. We still have the energy. They got their hoes, their cutlass, and they went to farm. They were planting pepper. I can't remember the exact species. So they planted, and harvest was right. At some point, they could not muzzle enough financial resources and logistic resources to move their pepper from the farm to the market. So at some point, they literally abandoned harvesting. And today, if you talk to any of them about farming, you will hear what you don't want to hear.
Is it that they didn't do the due diligence well before they started? They didn't count the cost?
No. Is it really counting costs? I think, and this is what we're talking about. You see, there are potential buyers. Definitely. Now, you need people who will actually help you source your buyer. If you go to my village today, people plant cassava because starch is big business. Those days we used to uproot cassava, peel them, fry them, and sell. But now they are selling cassava in the farm from planting. People come from the city to buy the farm off.
While before it even ripes.
Before it's even got into the point of maturity. So they buy the farm, complete farm. And then during harvest, they come, they harvest, and they take away. This is happening. I guess this is, the issue is that what they would have done is to go to the market and see people who sell.
Simple.
And they come to buy from the farm.
Not enough market.
So they just harvest, and then they can also ship. But I think there's another issue that we also need to speak to in the issue of the area of agriculture. And this is the issue of research and development. Some years ago, somebody gave this analysis. An acre of rice farm in Nigeria can barely give you 3 tons of rice.
Yeah, some years ago.
Whereas in Thailand, same acre of land can produce 16 tons. Because of improvement in technology. So the yield is massive. Israel has perfected this technology. They call it a predictive agriculture. They can plant a mango and tell you the number of fruit the mango will produce. Because they have scientifically been able to know what you need to put on the soil for that mango to produce S quantum of fruits.
For me, I think we're not lacking in the area of R&D. It is only in implementation. We have IITA there, and I have friends who are into agriculture, and they are going to IITA for consultation, and they are getting value for it. But beyond coming up with R&D, how do we implement? Like I said earlier on one of our shows, the first pounding machine was invented in Nigeria here. We have it documented. But who developed it? Some another country. No.
See, when you are looking at issues about R&D, say we need to do more. We have not done enough. Take for example, in recent time, Nigerian gari and yam are not accepted in the UK market because we're told that there are some element of cyanide in it which are carcinogenic. Research needs to take that away from that thing so that we can export these things. IIT is there definitely, no doubt, but what's the depth of the research? How can we increase the yield of our cassava? How can we increase the yield of our tomatoes? This is what we're talking about.
Okay,
and I feel research should do this.
Okay, I agree, but the depth of research is a function of the depth of the financing as well. And there's a particular sector that speaks to that. What about that?
Well, you see, I don't think it's just finance alone. It's far more than finance. It's also the laziness of our thinking. And I think that's what we need to actually improve upon.
Okay, now I want to, because when any crop or crops are in season, we see a lot of losses because of lack of storage facility and, to store ahead, just as you have said earlier. What do you think government, there can be public-private partnership. What do you think should be done? Because we lose a lot. Otherwise, there is nothing wrong in us having cassava, for instance, or tomato and pepper all year round.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think, how do you think government and the public-private partnership, investors should work together? How do you think that can?
I think we are doing that to an extent now. Part of the problems that we face that leads to seasonality of agri-produce is that the rains dry up after a while. But there is something called soilless farming, called hydroponics. I know a young man who is doing that, who is producing vegetables in a greenhouse without soil, soilless. Now, apologies. The ex-president Obasanjo is interested in this young man, and I think there's a particular measure of support the man is enjoying. He is going about educating young ones to come into soilless farming or hydroponics. But the question is, how many people are aware of the possibilities of hydroponics, let alone, yes?
I think there should be more awareness on that. I was opportune to be in Akwa Ibom sometime last year when they were celebrating the 35 years anniversary. And I saw what Governor Udom did in the state concerning green technology. It was mind-blowing. And right from source, the entire Akwa Ibom, knows about this. So they go to buy at, there are days slated for them to buy. So once those things come out of greenhouse, ready market. And that, I guess that's why when you go to Akwa Ibom, you can eat, nothing is short. In fact, your soup, I love soup.
Obviously.
He'll give you a bowl full of soup.
It doesn't itching to see something.
I just, I love that somebody has been able to do this. Recently, I was also talking to some people in Kano, and we were having this conversation about hydroponic farms. Because in UAE in 2019, they succeeded in building a vertical farm that produces about 16 types of vegetable in the UAE. Wow. When you get to UAE, you see their carrots, they are produced from this vertical farm. But this is government investment. It's a massive building. And this is what we should be talking about. State government can partner with people.
Yes.
The technology is not indigenous to UAE, for example. I think the company is from Oman, who did that investment in the UAE. And they are producing all the vegetable. If you see watermelon, you see cucumber, you see carrots,
Sure.
all manners of things are produced hydroponically from those vertical farms. So it's not something, it's something we can embrace and do it large scale. And this also could actually address some of these things we're talking about, commodity-induced inflation. If we can do this in commercial quantity, and these products are coming to the market, and then we can. But the only problem is here that we do a lot of talk, and there's little of action.
Well, we can't talk enough anyway, and we owe them that particular role as a media organization to keep it as a front burner issue until such a point where the powers that be, the concerned authorities are able to, latch on to what we're saying and give us attention and make it happen. Because if we are not focusing on agriculture, then it's just a case of time bomb. Because a country that cannot feed its populace is off for something it doesn't expect. Now, there is this cultural dimension to even hydroponics. I have seen people, natives, who come around and behold the wonders of hydroponics in their locale. Oh, this guy is doing magic. And secretly, they tell their children, if he gives you anything from that farm, or from that thing he calls farm, don't eat. Because to them, how can crop grow without soil? And I see culture as a culprit here. Our cultural practices believe that, okay, things must grow from the soil. But how do we tackle this?
Well, that is insignificant, because I think it's lack of communication. Have they even attempted giving those children some seed to go home and do the same thing, even in bottles, and see whether it will grow?
No, but I think the point Ayo is making is our cultural dimension to what we have been. And that really separates us from Western countries.
But I say, if there is enough communication,
it's not just communication.
Education.
Education.
Yes.
This is what it is.
Education.
Yeah, but you also see people who are very highly educated, and they are still very ignorant in a lot of things. So what you see is, you see in the West, when they see a problem, they face it head on. But for us, culturally speaking, when we see something that looks bigger than us, we assume it's a god to be worshipped.
Well,
yeah. So I think that's the point that Ayo is trying to make. So you are saying that this is big. We started to worship water because we saw, oh, this body of water is so big.
Okay, there were communities where they were not wearing clothes before.
Yeah.
But they were educated and they started wearing clothes and shoes.
It didn't happen all the time, actually.
Yes, so why can't this also be taken as some?
Yes, it will be. I just think for us, it is more of a commitment to intentionally educating the minds. And when I talk about education, I don't mean the classroom education. Because as a matter of fact, it is much more effective when you display a particular concept to the natives. You take the fruit and you eat. And this is that you are not there. Maybe they are able to get convinced and you buy them over time.
Yeah, but you see, she just mentioned about seasonal, we talked about seasonal issues in agriculture just now. For example, in the UAE, in years they can hardly have rain. But UAE seed rain. The seeding of rain, they gather rain and it falls at intervals.
So they can regulate when rain falls?
Yes. Government has invested in rain seeding in the UAE, and it happens from time to time. You see, this is the issue we should be talking about. And our politicians should just stop traveling. When they travel, they should also bring back some of these lessons that they have seen, work elsewhere. Because these people are not coming from Mars. They're humans like us.
That's right.
All this money that we are wasting on, what they call it, these long convoys, bulletproof cars, we can invest in these areas, and this will really address some of our social problems. And I think that's where we need to speak to the current government, because the cost of governance in Nigeria is too expensive.
It is expensive. Now, you know, you have said it once before that we expect so much from government. So, but we need the right environment. So how can government incentivize the private sector to do this investment? Because we need crops, we need these things round the year. So what kind of policies can be put
in the 60s, in the 70s, government had extension workers.
Definitely.
Who were moving from village to village, teaching people how to cultivate. What happened? Suddenly faded away.
There are departments of agric extension in universities.
Now, rather than having these extension workers who come to enlighten local farmers, we are having retinues of PAs who are actually doing nothing and adding no value, but increasing the cost of governance. That's the point I'm trying to make. So if we can cut off the cost of governance, government can actually also do a lot in terms of investment, which will give job to people, which will provide food for people. And if people can do it elsewhere, then of course they can also encourage private sector to play in that sector.
Okay, let's look at the curriculum that we operate in our agri institutions. We have universities of agriculture in Nigeria here. And then even in conventional schools, we have departments of agriculture, a whole faculty
and agricultural institutes as well.
Now, I am privy to the fact that the syllabus that is being run in these schools and these faculties is outdated. You have lecturers teaching you about fish farming who have never done fish farming for once in their lives. I have a sad, maybe not sad, a very unfortunate one. A set of graduates from a particular school, whose name I will not mention here, agri graduates, they came together, pumped by the energy of their lecturers, by the motivation. You can go out there, don't work for anybody, and so on and so forth. And they gathered money together, they established pig farms, fish farms. But nobody told them the real secrets, not because they wanted to hide it from them, but they didn't know. After a while, everything went down the drain.
What happened?
They were discouraged. But then they now went to local fish farmers after they had lost money, millions of dollars. Baba, please teach us your ways. Let us know how you do it. The man laughed and laughed, told them, bring money and I'll teach you. The man taught them something different from what the syllabus says, from what academics taught them, and they became profitable. And that puts a question mark. Knowledge will flow from gown to town. It is not. There is a place of experiential learning, which our schools are not doing. You should speak to that because you are an academic. In the context.
Where is the place of apprenticeship anyway?
Well,
why shouldn't they have learned?
No, but they are students, and they're supposed to be studying mechanical engineering in a university or a polytechnic, and then, of course, you graduate. Then they give you opportunity to go do internship and the rest of it. Now, those happen within the space. But you see, when our children are going out for internship, they actually don't go to internship to do the things for which they're actually learning in school. So that's a big problem. You see, the synergy between the town and the gown is what the problem really is.
Okay.
And it's not just only in the area of agriculture, even in the area of pharmacology.
Yes.
We have local herbs, for example, that are curative,
Definitely.
known by local herbalists. How do the pharmacy units of university, for example, integrate these people so that learning can be shared
Well,
and this is preserved?
I get it.
This is the real problem. You see, because elsewhere, if people are training
Yes.
up to tomorrow, even up to secondary school, internship is done in the UK. If you want to become a journalist, and that is what you feel your career path is, and you are still in secondary school, what do you want to become? You want to be a journalist. They send you to a media house to go and do internship, and then come back to still feel if you still want to be a journalist. If you say, oh, I want to become a military, they send you into the army to go and do internship. so that you actually see what the army do. And then you can make up your mind if it's a trade that you want to take on. Now that's happening. So even at undergraduate level, this should happen, that we should actually be able to integrate the industries, the universities together so that they can actually become reproductive.
Is that not the whole essence of COS program and IT program in schools? Because even as an agric undergraduate, your year 4 in schools in Nigeria is called farm year. But the problem is still that you are still doing farm year in school. So nothing has changed. The same lecturers are still teaching you in the farm year. I think they should be sent to the farmers, to the local farmers. Go and learn on their farm.
But have you forgotten that the lecturers also upgrade themselves?
Academically they do, but
yes.
not by practice. I say that boldly. Many of them have never farmed in their lives before.
And they don't even know what the farm looks like.
I challenge them. Let them come on.
The farm on the book and the farm on the land, they are two different things.
Farming in your textbook is not the same as farming in the field. And until we get to that point where we do real farming on the field, so I want to say you are an agri graduate. We know what see, let me give
you what really baffles me?
Yes, please.
You see, you have an agri institution, and they are offering courses in banking and finance.
Revenue driving.
This is
maybe you have to bank the money you make from agriculture anyway. Maybe.
Take for example, all the agricultural institutions in Nigeria are actually doing large-scale farming. Would it be a better source of revenue than the school fees and the form fee, if revenue is actually the motive?
Okay, I think we've actually flogged this issue, but I just hope that the authorities, the concerned authorities, the government, private sectors, farmers, whether smallholder farmers and even the big scale ones, the large scale farmers, so to speak, are able to pick one or two things from what we have said today. The idea is that we should be able to feed ourselves as a nation first, and after that, then we're able to think about exports. We are not exporting so much of what we're producing here. The heydays of the country, the days of glory, were those days when cocoa was being exported in large quantities. And we still have Cocoa House in Ibadan up till today. It has not collapsed because it was built from raw energy, from raw ideas. So let's hope that sometime very soon we will get it right in the country.
You see, what happened to cocoa is happening to almost everything around us, because the real problem with the Cocoa House was the fact that cocoa production, there were no investment in the value chain, and farmers were discouraged.
Yes.
Same happened to rubber. Same happened to groundnut. Now, if we don't really encourage people deliberately to invest in this sector, we will keep having all this conversation. So because the agri value chain is massive.
Okay, the conversation continues on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter at supnews.com. Don't go away. We're going to take a short break now. Please stay tuned.
Leave the comfort zone of friends and family. Once you've proven the concept with friends and family, reach out and grow. In my experience of studying entrepreneurial businesses, it's a human story behind them that intrigued me the most. And the story of Common Clothing by Omimi Okere is not different. Caveat, Omimi Okere is my son. He has a clothing business called Common Clothing. I recall one day coming into the foyer of our apartment at Canary Wharf. The concierge at the reception called me and handed me an envelope. He said, "Oh, is the designer in?" And I was wondering who the designer was. He said, "Oh, your son, please can you give this to him?" And inside the envelope was £250. And I asked him, "What is this for?" And he said, "I bought some clothing from Common Clothing and I want to pay for them." And I was deeply touched. I was deeply touched because most times when we start an entrepreneurial business, it's the friends and family patronage that gives us the kickoff. Sometimes we forget that the business should transcend beyond friends and family, and we get bitter when we don't have continuous and sustained patronage from friends and family. But what I realized that Omimi had done was that he had left that comfort zone, that area of shelter, and he had gone to the extent of attracting customers far and wide beyond. And why this gentleman patronized him, as I came to understand, was that he took time to customize a hoodie for the gentleman who was on the plus side. And that word of mouth has spread to the extent that most of his friends were buying from Common Clothing. And I was so happy for my son. And I'll be so happy for entrepreneurs out there that are hacking away. There's a whole market there waiting for you.
The size of the crowd, the security operatives, both military and paramilitary, and the clinical attention to every detail, all of these make a loud noise. The commander-in-chief is here, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It is Friday at the Central Mosque, and this is Lagos Island, where the president observed the first Jumat service since his swearing in a month ago. It is on record that he lost Lagos State at the polls, but the resilience of these homegrown supports clearly attests to the fact that he never lost his people.
Speaking about losing Lagos, it's difficult to actually say where is Lagos. Lagos is the island. He is in his own territory, so he won Lagos even in that election. So here for me is just a thank you visit to talk to his people and tell them well done for being there for me, solidly behind me in the last election. That is what it is.
Lagos is not the first to welcome the president since his victory, as he goes about in an apparent show of gratitude, even in quarters where he was not voted for. A step described by observers as one in the direction of dousing the flames of disunity.
I think it's important because as a president, he's a president for all, even those who didn't vote for him. This thank you visit is an opportunity to get back to the people who he leads, and I think it's a welcome development going forward, and I do hope that this visit will be extended to other places.
It is the Lagos crowd waving and cheering today. Tomorrow, it will definitely be another crowd doing the same. Ayo, Jimmy, Souk News.
Idil-Kabir Festival, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in Lagos, and he celebrated the festive season with his people on the Lagos Island. So, you know, from that report you saw just now, you will see what he did and how his people still rallied around him. So, And you know that Souk News, where we're broadcasting live on Early Exchange, you know, is located in the heart of Lagos, the Broad Street. So we want to examine and x-ray the lost glory of Lagos Island.
Is it really lost?
Well, we have in the house with us today to let us know whether the glory of Lagos Island is actually lost or is still intact. We have in the studio with us today Honorable Felix Goke Olawale, former sole administrator Ikoyi Obalinde LCDA, and he was also the former chairman. He's also the former chairman Parking Authority, Etiosa local government. Welcome to our studio, Honorable.
Good morning.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for the honor.
Yeah.
Lagos Island. This is the base of Mr. President, and his people are still solidly behind him. We discovered that the history of Lagos State is, the history of Nigeria can't be told fully without chapters upon chapters about Lagos Island.
Okay.
Some believe the glory is not there. After all, we have the Banana Islands of today, we have the VI of today, we have the Lake of today, and so on and so forth. Is it lost or is it still intact? Let's start from there.
Yes, good morning, viewers. What I would want to say about Lagos Island, the glory of Lagos Island is not lost at all. Okay. It's still very, very intact. And when we look at it, when we are saying that Lagos State is this commercial nerve center of Nigeria, we are simply talking about Lagos Island. And then talking about Lagos Island, mere looking at the location and the infrastructural facilities provided on the island, you will definitely believe that the glory is still there. Despite the fact that we have some skirmishes that can still be rectified anyway, so the glory of Lagos Island is still very much intact.
Okay, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a very prominent Nigerian politician who has made significant difference in the political landscape, coming particularly from Lagos Island. You know, how do you think the people of this island, how much of support do you think they still have for him, even now as a president? How much trust do you think he can still place on them?
Well, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I may want to say it's not fully from Lagos Island, but from Ikeja. That is his constituency, okay. Right. The wife is, our home constituency is the, let me put it, Lagos Central Senatorial Constituency, okay. Which consists of 5 local governments. We talk of Etiosa local government, we'll talk of Lagos Island local government, we'll talk of Surulere local government, we'll talk of Apapa local government, and mainland local government. That is where what we mean by Lagos Central Senatorial Constituency, where the First Lady came from, right? And our main local government within that 5 local government is Etiosa, most especially Ikoyi Obalinde LCDA. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a fantastic man, very fantastic. Mere seeing him alone is like you have seen God, right? The moment he sees you, he wants to ask you, what can I do for you? What do you want, right? And then even at the end of the whole discussion with him, he fixes you up, right? He takes care of whatever may be your problem. I remember vividly well. I visited him about 2, 3, 4 occasions. And then when I got to Bodilon, I seek audience to meet with him. And without much ado, I met with him.
Okay, let us focus on Lagos Island.
Okay.
Where at the hub, at the center of Lagos Island,
yeah.
which is the Broad Street.
Okay.
What are the economic values
of Broad Street.
Of Broad Street.
There are a lot of economic value here in Broad Street. Let me tell you, first of all, investment would want to come to a place like Broad Street. They want to have even their headquarters here.
Why is that?
Because of the peaceful atmosphere of the area. One, if you look at Broad Street as a street, it's one of the longest streets in Lagos State. And if you look at the infrastructural facilities, the road is well fixed, right? The authority over in the Lagos Island, they are working every hour, every minute. You hardly can park anyhow on the Broad Street. Before you know it, the towing vehicle will come to tow you away. The only factor that militated against Broad Street is where we will talk of the street auctions, right? I know quite all right, even if some of the area boys sees a trailer going on the Broad Street now, they may run after it till it gets to the final destination and they start demanding for one thing or the other. But aside of the area boys, which is everywhere, even in the world, if you go to England, if you go to UK, anywhere you see them, right? Apart from that, Broad Street, the economic value is there. We have the first general hospital in Nigeria located at #1 Broad Street there. We have the largest maternity in Africa. The Lagos Island Maternity Home is located on the Broad Street there, right? We have even the prison where our Obafemi Awolowo served. It has now become Freedom House now. It has become Freedom Park now. It's here on the Lagos Island. Besides, we have the first Federal Press Center, the Federal Press printing press. We have it here on the Lagos Island, Broad Street. We have one of the oldest secondary schools in Nigeria here, Methodist Boys High School. It was located on the Lagos Island on the Broad Street. We also have the Freeman House. If you look at the Freeman House belongs to the Methodist Church, and that is the headquarters of Shell Petroleum. Why have they decided to come to Broad Street? Because it's a peaceful atmosphere. Do you think they will build their headquarters in Ogoni or in Port Harcourt? But they are enjoying the peaceful atmosphere of the Broad Street.
Okay, I like to, yes, we did a report on Broad Street and we showed it yesterday, and we got a lot of reviews from that because we attested to all these things you are mentioning about. But I believe that societies evolve over time.
All right.
Lagos Island has evolved. Broad Street has evolved.
That's right.
What has been the dimension of evolution of Lagos Island as you know it?
Well, what I think, you see, when the colonial masters came, they also wanted an environment that is suitable to them. And I would say the involvement simply is because of the location of the Broad Street itself, closer to the seaports. You can see we have even the headquarters of Nigerian Port Authority, virtually almost on the Broad Street, though we call it Marina, but it's just, they have their gates at Broad Street. So the seaport is one of the factors that militated for the development and the development of Lagos Island, most especially the Broad Street. So, you know, the seaport is here. Even the headquarters of Nigeria Electrification Corporation then, ECN, NEPA, is on the Broad Street, attached to the Broad Street, right? Then what are we saying? The first six-story building in Nigeria is on the Broad Street. Okay. We call it the Federal Inland Revenue.
Okay, you know, during the colonial era, Broad Street used to be the base. Not Broad Street, Lagos Island used to be the. How has the governance been, you know, on Lagos Island since then? Is it still the same? Is this still the center of governance? Is Lagos Island
although we may be losing one or two things in that aspect. The first mayor of Lagos Island was Dr. Olorunibe. And you know, the headquarters, in fact, it's one of the first local government to be created in those days, and we call it the Lagos City Council. Lagos Island is located very close to the Catholic Church, Holy Cross, right? Just on the Catholic Mission Street. So if you look at it, right, the governance of Lagos has been a very wonderful one, right? Today, we have the local government has been divided into two. And if we look at the chairman of the local government today, we have Tijani, Honorable Tijani To Adetoyeshe Olusi is the current chairman of Lagos Island. We also have the LCDA, because, you know, Ashiwaju is a wonderful person. I don't know where he got the idea from, but I think he created the 37 LCDA and the 20 local government because he wants the governance to get closer to the people, so that you don't need to go too far before you can get your matter or your complaints treated. So he created this LCDA.
So governance during the colonial master wasn't like that on the island?
It wasn't like that on the island. The governance during the colonial era was a different thing, though the population was not as much as we have it now. And then you can see, for now, we have almost expansion in every facet. Even the gutters have been expanded. In those days, your gutter will flow free, but we lack certain things. Lagos Island lacks certain things now. And you know, in those days, you have access to free, hygienic tap water. Free one. You don't need to go and buy pure water. Free, hygienic tap water. You know, the water flows easily. At every junction of a road or street, you will see the government must have created one tap water there for the community to use. Right.
All right. Yes, let's look at urban renewal possibilities and dictates in Lagos Island. It's an ancient island. Yes, one of the very first in Nigeria. A very ancient one. And even everywhere you go, you see traces, you see visible evidence of that old nature of the island. Okay. Buildings are collapsing on the island almost every time. The government is marking a lot for demolition, which is an urban renewal process or protocol.
Okay.
Now, what needs to change? We have a particular friction between preserving the colonial architecture of old and stepping up the game to ensure that we have this modern facelift. How do you create a facelift for a place as crowded as Lagos Island, where you can stay on one building and exchange cup with someone in another building through the window? They are that close, with due respect. Okay. How do you manage that dynamics between preserving the so-called cultural outlook of Lagos Island and stepping up to the renewal phase?
Thank you. What I'll simply say about that is that government should come to their aid.
By demolishing the buildings?
Not at all. Okay. Not at all. You see, let us look at a place like Obalende. Obalende consists of about 265 houses, right? The buildings are old, right? Now, developers are trooping to Obalende, coming to their aid, right? We have only probably 6 or 8 major streets there in Obalende. And then, instead of the government thinking of demolishing the whole place, the government can as well come to their aid.
In what sense?
Yes. You see, they can be given grants or loan. The government can even build the houses for them without sending them out.
Why should
Right.
why should the government
come to their head.
Why should government single island out or Balinde out of the entire state, for instance?
You see, even before God, we are not the same. Right. Even before God, we are not the same. Even you, your children are not the same.
But what will be the justification that government
The justification is this. Let me tell you something about Obalende. Look at Obalende, a very peaceful area. This is an area where there is nothing like street boys disturbing you there, right? This is an area that is just about 500 meters away from the old state house, where Gowon ruled, where Buhari ruled, where Babangida ruled, where Obasanjo ruled. Sure, you understand me? Now, Obalende has been a very peaceful area. It's a different place entirely from the Lagos Island, where we are discussing. So, and they have about 260 or 215 houses, right? With, if the government had injected something like maybe 10 billion, right? It's enough to develop Obalende. You don't need to run over it, to take it. And when you give them facility like that.
I'm still having issue with singling out
Obalende,
or even the entire of Lagos Island, in the whole of Lagos State.
Yes.
I still have issues with that. Now, I want to, even if government must do that, what has been the involvement of the youth in community development that, you know, can encourage the government to say, oh, these people are outshining, you know, we have Oshodi, we have different...
Lagos Island has a lot of youth.
So what has been the involvement in community development that government should now say, I want to invest so much on Obalende youth or Obalende advanced?
I am not talking of the youths now. We are looking at development and why buildings are collapsing.
Yes.
Now, I wouldn't want us to lose focus on that. Right. I was sole administrator, Ikoyi Obalende LCDA.
Okay.
And I know much about this axis. Though I was born on the Lagos Island here. Right? I have lived at Boshire, so on. My church is Methodist Church, Tinubu here. Now I'm at Ikoyi. So I know much about these areas.
Okay.
The concentration, what I mean, look now, no house had ever fallen at Obalende, right? Because it was well planned by the colonial masters, who actually gave them the land. They compensated those, in those days, those who went, the military that fought on the West African Soldier Frontier Force. They called them West during the Second World War, right? And then those of the, most of the gardeners, clerks of the colonial masters, they wanted them very close to them. So they, you know, they allocated this land to them, right? And the place has been so peaceful. This is an area where you can easily wake up at any time and sleep at any time. This is an area that shares boundary with Awolowo Road, right? Now, no house had ever fallen in that area, but probably because they don't have high-rise houses around that area as such. Now, they should look at Obalende as a case study. Not take over the place, not outrightly taking over the place. Assist them with fund. Let them sign documents so that they pay back in bit. There is money in Lagos. That area can be developed, and then they pay back later or gradually, right? Like you rightly said, that there are some houses on the Lagos Island where from number 8 you can easily collect. Yes. You see, let me tell you, even if you see some people, ladies, beautifully dressed and so on and so forth, when you see them outside, and by the time they take you to where they live, you'll be wondering, Ronnie, this is not true, you know. But yes, you know, let me tell you one thing. The cultural position of Ikoyi, of Lagos Island, most especially Isaleko, is a serious factor because, you know, they have their shrines there, and most of the shrines are so old, and they don't want anything to remove the shrine. So that still goes to the same area. that I would want to say, if the government decides, okay, we want to look at a place like Igadu Gono, Obueko, and a place like Nowa, and then decide to talk to the landlords there. We want to come to your head. Can you pay back in bits? They know what to do.
Because I was about asking you if the gods are against development and renewal of shrines. I wouldn't know if the gods will be, if the god will start and say, don't renew my shrine.
Modernization.
I understand we are Africans,
Yeah.
so I quite get the place of preserving our culture, okay? But then I am not sure the gods will be against development. Okay, now let's be forward thinking because we don't have the time. Now, we have Mr. President who has a history with this part of Lagos.
Fantastic.
Because you said he is not from here, and I'm not arguing that. So, what would you set for him as an agenda of renewal of Lagos Island that can foster progress and development the way we all desire it to be? Because for a place that has as much heritage as Lagos Island, I think it deserves so much more. So, what would be your agenda-setting dimension for the president?
Let me quickly correct one impression.
Okay.
I have not told you that Mr. President is not from Lagos Island.
You said his
But I
constituency
told
is
you
Ikeja.
that his constituency is Ikeja. That is, yes, even when he was senator, that was where he contested as senator, Ikeja constituency. Right. Now, if you look at it very well, may he so rest in peace. I want to remember the time of Oba Adeyinka Oyekon. You know, when we talk of Oba Adeyinka Oyekon, he's more or less a prophet. I don't know what he sees in Tinubu. He decides to give him Ashiwaju. See, you understand me? Ashiwaju of Lagos. That was 13th of April, I think. 13th of April, 2003. Now, he decides to give him Ashiwaju of Lagos. And when I was there, when he was praying for Ashiwaju, he told him, you are not going to be limited to Lagos. You are not going to be Ashiwaju of Lagos alone. You are going to be Ashiwaju of Nigeria. And today is Ashiwaju of Nigeria. The only thing I would want to say about development or set agenda for
maybe just one sentence
for Mr. President is for him to not to rely on the local government executives alone, but have direct discussion and conference or a summit with all the landlords in the Lagos Island. Then they will bring out a communique that will give the president or the governor the agenda to follow.
Okay, on one last question before you go. Many people flock Lagos Island. You know, I know that some areas in Lagos Island don't even have good water. You know, but people still, some will even tell you, I don't do bridges. You know, people who live on the island pride themselves so much that I live on the island. What is the attraction to the island? That is not in Magodo, that is not in Ikeja. What is the attraction?
There's no stress on the island.
You're asking an island boy.
No stress. No stress on the island. Do you know what it takes for you to leave Lagos Island? When you are coming to work here, you will spend about 2 hours in the traffic. When you are going, you will spend about 3-4 hours in the traffic. Now you are in Lagos Island. You don't go through any traffic or there's no stress on the Lagos Island. That is what actually gave us the pride. No stress on the island.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for Felix Goke, for being in our studio today. I appreciate you.
He's a proper island boy. There's anything I know about them. They are proud of their heritage. And I think I'm happy about that.
Thank you.
It is still one Nigeria anyway. Whether Lagos Island or anywhere else, we're still part of the same system. So the show is that. At this point, we go on a short break now. And when we're back, we embark on the last lap.
Having supported media organizations in sub-Saharan Africa over the last 20 years, I've identified loads of gaps. And I wonder why a lot of media organizations find it difficult to meet those gaps, because these are things we go through every day as human beings. What media is meant to do is to help you move from one level to the next. That is what Soup News is about to do. We're about to touch you and bring development, make it simple, help you understand the little things you need to do, both with your business and other life, to move to the next level. It's about development. It's about business. It's about economy. It's about taking you from where you are now, giving you trends, giving you analysis, backed by research and data, something that you've never seen before, but is right there in front of you. Soup News, taking you to the next level you need to be in your business life, your development life, and overall economy.
The show is still early exchange on Soup News, and we have with us our in-house analyst, Sam Olowuje. We miss your face for quite some days now. You look fresh, you look relaxed, you look relaxed. No more pressure of Soup News on you. All right, yes. A CBN report, this year's report in particular, says that over 40 million Nigerians are unbanked. What that means is that they either don't have access to financial services, or they don't have, they can't afford the services, essentially, and meaning the economic potentials that could accrue from them if they were included in the banking subsector would not really come. And 40 million is quite a lot out of 200 million.
That is alarming. That is alarming, and really, just as the CBN took the initiative to have the strategy, financial inclusion strategy, was really not out of place in 2012, and I think that was
updated in 2018. The National Financial Inclusion Strategy was updated. And now, there were some talking points, some pillars of that particular document, which are to create a conducive environment for the expansion of digital financial services that we see today, to promote rapid growth of agent networks, to harmonize KYC, know your customers requirements, to increase access to financial services, and to create an environment that is conducive to serving the most excluded, and lastly, to drive adoption of cashless payment channels. Let us zone in on POS, the point of sales operators in Nigeria, which is a key development that stems from this document we're talking about now. We know the roles they played during cash crunch. Unto good or unto evil, we know. But let's proceed. How much of effort do you think Nigeria is making in the right direction to pull in people that are unbanked, anchoring it on POS, for instance?
Thank you very much indeed. I think essentially the POS operators, as we popularly call them, are the nucleus of the financial inclusion policy to target the underbanked and those who are not within the core banking financial service sector. Therefore, the POS operators, as in terms of reaching the underbanked, they have provided what you call financial inclusion. And I think the Central Bank of Nigeria and the government need to encourage more penetration into that sector to provide an inclusive financial service that will grow the economy. 40 million people out of 200 plus Nigerians is a major challenge. So we need to be more inclusive further than what the policy initiative has enunciated. So we need more implementation so that we can reach the rural people, that we can put those kind of money into the financial service sector that will improve the lending into other sectors.
Okay, in the face of this financial inclusion strategies, it seems microfinance operators are going into extinction because POS is everywhere. You can find 20 POS on one street now. What do you think? Do we still need microfinance banks? What are the challenges they are facing? Do you think government should intervene or they should just die natural death?
Maybe before you respond to that, I wouldn't agree with you that microfinance banks are going into extinction. They don't serve the same purpose as POS operators. They are more or less like partners in progress. The microfinance banks are essentially money lending outfits. POS doesn't lend.
But we have lots of apps now, online apps. You don't have to go to any microfinance bank.
But for real, it's only when you talk about a particular amount of money. There are some loans you can't access on your mobile app. I mean, because of the risk that is involved, because of the amount you're talking about. So I wouldn't agree with you on that.
Perhaps that is dependent on your eligibility to credit.
Yeah, thank you for your perspective. I think you cannot say that microfinance banks are going into extinction. I think what has happened in recent time is that the government has upped the game in terms of the regulatory framework and the capital adequacy ratio that were expected from microbank initially were moved up by the central bank. Therefore, those who couldn't meet some of those regulatory requirements couldn't stay in business. On the other hand, your POS operators are in the value chain in terms of financial inclusion. Those just accept deposits and withdrawals. So the role of microfinance bank is still essential for the development of micro businesses. So they support small and medium enterprises. So they provide lending for that sector. To that extent, their role is very well appreciated, and a lot of small and medium enterprises depend on them for financial services. On the other hand, for you to have a single unit of microfinance bank, you need to have certain capital requirement. For you to operate more than one branch, you need another requirement. Therefore, because the government upped the game in terms of capital adequacy, some couldn't raise those capital that will sustain them. Not that they are really going to extinction.
Yes. So let's go back to this issue of financial inclusion. There are three legs of this policy: accessibility, availability, and affordability. Meaning, for us to include as many people as possible, we must make sure that they have access to financial services. Then we must make those services available to them, and at the same time make them affordable to them. Let's look at the rural areas. What do we say about these three legs? How much of access does the farmer in Ile-Oluji have? How much of available services can he, latch onto? And what about the affordability? The only thing soft about these so-called soft loans is the message they send to you to come and borrow. Apart from that message that says you can come and borrow money from us, nothing is soft about it. The payment is not soft. Interest rate is not soft.
And if you default, you're in trouble.
Oh, are you talking about fintech?
I am. No, not even fintech. Even we say let us widen the net, right?
Yeah.
And bring in more people. Make financial services available to them and affordable. Even if it is available, it is not affordable. That is my own point. At least to those rural dwellers.
How affordable at over 20%?
Because these are issues
interest.
Yes. These are the issues that exclude people from these financial services.
In terms of access which is market penetration. Yes. I think financial inclusion, to a very large extent, has resolved that issue. If you talk about affordability in terms of service delivery, I'm sure within those rural communities is affordable because sometime few months back, I went to a village around Ekiti, and I was drawing a 5,000 cash to do something, and I paid just 50 naira, unlike in Lagos, where I pay 100 naira to exchange for 5,000. So in terms of affordability at the rural area, I think is highly affordable for the rural community. That's my personal experience.
You are only speaking to cash transactions, you know, and the inclusion goes beyond cash transactions. It goes into accessing credits. It goes into being able to, you know, put your business in that financial mainstream and get to pay for all the services. That is the affordable dimension I'm talking about.
Okay, if you're talking about credit, yes. The POS operators, to the best of my knowledge, are not involved in extending credit. No. Nevertheless, money has a cost, what they call cost of funds. So the rate at which you get funds or deposit is the rate at which you can lend out. So that is determined by market forces. Interest rate, level of inflation, and the price of money within the financial market sector. So you cannot attract deposit at a higher level, and therefore you want to lend lower. So in terms of lending or getting credit, so credit is a function of how you source the fund and the cost of fund. So I think to a very large extent, the credit regime in most rural areas is equally determined by the greater lending ratio that has been determined by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the core banking institution.
I remember, go on, say that.
So I think lending is the only way we can reduce the cost of credit is for us to put more resources into the financial service sector. So the more money we have within that template, particularly the informal sector, will help us to lower the level of borrowing or access to credit.
Okay, I remember during the cash crunch, it was a harrowing experience. And the POS people, for instance, because that's the point of talk now, they were charging almost 50% at some cases, in some cases, you know, on every withdrawal. Okay, so how would you rate or adjudge regulatory policies, you know, concerning promoting financial inclusion in Nigeria? If CBN at that time could not tell them, no, for this amount of money you cannot charge beyond this, and talking about interest rates as well, you know, how fluid, how attractive, you know, are the government policies in really implementing this financial inclusion in the country?
I think the policy in itself is a good policy, but the implementation to a very large extent in terms of the regulatory framework from the Central Bank of Nigeria in particular, they need to review further in terms of the regulatory framework, in terms of banking supervision and all that. On the other hand, we're in an environment where people take advantage of challenges because the implementation process, people are not prosecuted when they make infraction into the legal regime. Therefore, people were collecting money arbitrarily from people. But nevertheless, as a people, I think one of the major challenges during that period is that many of us don't like using our applications to pay for service.
At that time, the applications were even not working.
They were working, but because we are used to carrying cash, I did most of my transactions at that particular point in time using the app.
No, you were
I will have to introduce, this is my personal experience, in my view, that somebody that I used to buy meat product from, they were asking me to pay cash. I said, no, I have money, I pay you transfer. I will wait till that transaction is concluded, then you give me your product. So the point I'm trying to make, we have issues with our own psychology as a people, and that's brought about that kind of regime. So going forward, in my view, is that we should learn to deploy technology to assess financial service so that you don't pay through that period and never assess a POS for any transaction, because I couldn't have paid
That
20,
case was
30%.
a rare case. It was a very rare case because we tried several times. In fact, I was opportuned at a point to be in one of the banks, and one woman came wailing. Yes. Our father just went through an operation. She paid for the surgery, and then she needed medication, and she had transferred twice. The other party, the receiving party, didn't get anything. And she had to run to the bank. And the bank said, oh, I'm sorry, there is no cash. So it happened.
You were lucky.
You were very lucky.
For those who were actually flying commercial buses, the drivers will tell you, I don't want transfer. The aboki will tell you, I don't have a bank account, even though he has millions there. Because everybody needed cash.
Oh, I wanted to buy vegetable and plantain.
You want to buy ugu. You want to transfer 100 naira to do. Yes, it is not too small to be transferred, okay?
But
away from that, let's talk about the arrival of fintech on the scene. They changed the game. I call them the big boys that came to the game. Because today, they are valued more than many of these commercial banks.
That's right.
I don't want to mention names here, but we know that fintech boys are big boys on the scene. How has the arrival of fintech, promoted financial inclusion? In your own opinion?
Yeah, fintech has changed the way financial service sector in Nigeria in recent time, and particularly from the point of view of what you call soft loan or soft credit. The only challenge is that when you default in their payment, in terms of data privacy, it become a problem. I had a call from one of the operators saying that I guaranteed somebody. And I said, no, how did I guarantee somebody a loan where you did not execute any securitization of that loan? I said, I didn't sign any document. So please do not call my number again. Nevertheless, I know that my number may have been in the person's network, and I have to call the person and say, please, if you are indebted to XYZ financial service provider, please go and pay up your credit. Your name is in the public arena. On the other hand, I overheard just about 3 weeks ago when the chairman of the Bankers Association, I guess, Shikobi, former managing director of what do you call that again? Okay, I remember that. Said that most banks have equally embraced fintech services. Any bank that has not embraced that technology is at its own peril. So most banks are in that arena using financial technology to drive their lending, their financial service operation in general.
Now, I'm wondering, what kind of partnership arrangements can occur between government agencies and financial institutions to help micro organizations, in promoting their businesses, developing their businesses, and at the same time being part of the financial inclusion we're talking about? What kind of partner can government partner with these financial banks in favor of business organizations or firms?
I think the central bank in particular has been involved in providing some lending to small and medium enterprises to grow those businesses. In addition, some of the banks, in particular because of adverse space, will not be able to mention specific banks.
They're still talking about in very high interest rates.
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, that you can only lend based on the cost of fund. So until you have more people in the financial service net, lending will continue to be a major challenge in terms of pricing. So loans are priced based on the cost of funds at which those deposits are attracted to the bank. Nevertheless, the government and many of the banks have some schemes that target small and medium enterprises. But the challenge, on the other hand, too, is that more often than not, when people collect credits, they don't like paying back those credits. So how do you sustain those lending regime that sustain that sector?
Okay. In all of this, financial literacy still plays a major role. Part of the problem we had during the cash crunch was that we were trying to introduce digital devices to people we did not prepare to use it. We were forcing it down their throats. I don't have cash to transfer, collect. I don't
have cash to give.
You collect, transfer.
Well,
I think if we had actually prepared their minds before now, we don't have to wait for emergencies or any disruption in the value chain or the supply chain to happen before we start educating the masses about the need for all of us to go tech, for instance, or the need for all of us to go and embrace financial inclusion as a skill.
But we were forced into it and it worked.
It worked. Because I know that if the local seller, the local meat seller out there understands the fact that you lose nothing by accepting transfer via my phone, it will still, play along. But we just went to them because we were in crisis. We don't have to allow change to be driven by a crisis.
That's right.
Change has to be risky. And then when the time came for her to get some facilities, she could not. I told Grandma, you need a bank account. So each one, teach one. That's the mantra for me. Okay, that is the show this morning. It's been a roller coaster, 2 hours straight on early exchange, and we want to thank everybody that has been part of the program. Idauza, thank you. Sam Ruje, thank you for coming on the show, and even the other guests that came. I want to say thank you. The guys on the other side of the divide, my cameraman, I want to say thank you to you. And to you out there, the viewers, anywhere you're watching from, thank you. Let us do this tomorrow. Don't forget, follow us on Soup News across all social media platforms. It is at Soup News. We're there, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and the rest. Thank you very much.
TikTok.
My name is Ayo Jimmy. I'll see you tomorrow. By God's grace.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Leave the comfort zone of friends and family. Once you've proven the concept with friends and family, reach out and grow. In my experience of studying entrepreneurial businesses, it's the human story behind them that intrigued me the most. And the story of Common Clothing by Omimi Okere is not different. Caveat, Omimi Okere is my son. He has a clothing business called Common Clothing. I recall one day coming into the foyer of our apartment at Canary Wharf. The concierge at the reception called me and handed me an envelope. He said, "Oh, is the designer in?" And I was wondering who the designer was. He said, "Oh, your son, please can you give this to him?" And inside the envelope was £250. And I asked him, "What is this for?" And he said, "I bought some clothing from Common Clothing and I want to pay for them." And I was deeply touched. I was deeply touched because most times when we start an entrepreneurial business, it's the friends and family patronage that gives us the kickoff. Sometimes we forget that the business should transcend beyond friends and family. And we get bitter when we don't have continuous and sustained patronage from friends and family. But what I realized that Omimi had done was that he had left that comfort zone, that area of shelter, and he had gone to the extent of attracting customers far and wide beyond. And why this gentleman patronized him, as I came to understand, was that he took time to customize a hoodie for the gentleman who was on the plus side. And that word of mouth has spread to the extent that most of his friends were buying from Common Clothing. And I was so happy for my son. And I'll be so happy for entrepreneurs out there that are hacking away. There's a whole market there waiting for you.
We'll bring you the latest information on market trend as well as updates on the business and economic landscape. I am Blessing AG. Begin the show today with business stories from Nigeria. The financial sector facing a shortage of cash. The amount of cash deposited by the deposit money banks, DMBs, and merchant banks have deposited within the Central Bank of Nigeria increased to 579.27 billion naira in June 2023. It represents a 25.4% increase compared to 461.85 billion naira in May 2023. The reported 579.27 billion deposit with the CBN is a significant 118.34% increase compared to 265 billion naira deposited by banks and merchant banks in June 2022. In total, banks and merchant banks have deposited 2.99 trillion naira in the first half of 2023, which is a 32.5% increase from 2.26 trillion naira in the first half of 2022. Data from the CBN's official website shows that borrowing by banks and merchant banks dropped by 88% to 235.06 billion naira in June 2023 from 1.9 trillion naira in the last 6 months, even though they're required to meet a 65% loan-to-deposit requirement set by the CBN. In the last 6 months of 2023, the trend showed that banks are depositing more money with the CBN and borrowing less, even though they're required to meet 65% loan-to-deposit requirement set by the CBN. Analysts attribute the decrease in borrowing to a scarcity of cash, noting that banks and merchant banks are not receiving the usual cash deposits from businesses and individuals, which they would normally deposit with the CBN. Additionally, the economy has been adversely affected by the CBN's currency redesign program and the cash scarcity. Factors such as insecurity, supply chain problems, rising inflation, low productivity, increasing unemployment, and a lack of risk-free financial instruments have created an uncertain business environment. Now moving on, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, has announced that it is investigating attempts by point-of-sale POS agents to engage in price fixing. If found guilty, the agents will face sanctions. The investigation follows recent announcements by the Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents in Nigeria, AMBAN, Lagos chapter, regarding an increase in transaction charges. Public Relations Officer, AMBAN, Lagos chapter, Stephen Adeoye, stated that POS agents now have new price lists in the state and are planning to establish a task force to enforce the changes. However, the FCCPC emphasized that price fixing is illegal and disrupts the market, hindering innovation and efficiency and negatively affecting consumers. According to the FCCPC statement signed by its Executive Vice Chairman, Chief Executive Officer Babatunde Irukere, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018 allows businesses to organize as trade associations for legitimate purposes, such as enforcing applicable standards and best practices. However, strict
be it coordination on price fixing or any other commercially sensitive factor that restricts competition or distort the markets. Now moving on to something else in Nigeria. There have been different developments over the past week as the Nigerian economy is booming. Now let's see what is happening now in Africa. South Africa is taking steps to address the shortage of skills, which is seen as the biggest obstacle to growth in the country. Director of Strategy and Delivery Support in the South African Presidency, Somuska, says a change in the complex work permit system has been submitted to the state legal advisor and expected to become law in the coming months. The changes will be open for public comment for 30 days before being taken to Parliament. Musker argues that the dysfunctional educational system of the country and immigration have resulted to scarcity of skilled workers in South Africa, noting that within 2014 and 2021, only 25,298 skilled work permit visas were approved, with more than half of applications being rejected due to errors in the application process. He also highlighted the difficulty of coming to South Africa compared to other countries, despite the acute skills shortage which hampers investors and limits business growth. A study conducted by a team under the presidency revealed that a moderate increase in skilled migration could boost the country's gross domestic product, GDP, by 1.2%. The study suggests 8 recommendations, including the implementation of a points-based system for work permits, trusted employer status for larger companies to simplify the verification process, and the creation of new permit categories for remote workers and startup employees. Chief Executive Officer, Business Leadership South Africa, Busi Mavuso, emphasized the long-standing problem of work visas and the challenges faced by foreign companies and members of the French South African Chamber of Commerce in obtaining permits as a major constraint to skilled workers in the country. Mavuso says the country is now moving in the right direction with the recent removal of the radiological reports and other staff police requirements for clearance. In the global scene, Saudi Arabia's Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman has emphasized the need to strengthen cooperation between Saudi Arabia and Russia within the OPEC Alliance Conference in Vienna. Prince Abdulaziz stated that the alliance is committed to doing whatever is necessary to support the markets, and both countries have made additional voluntary oil cuts to boost prices. He noted that despite the efforts of both parties, the market's response has been limited, with Brent futures trading nearly flat below the desired price range of $80 to $100 per barrel. OPEC emphasizes its aim for a balanced oil market that meets the interests of consumers and producers, rather than targeting a specific price. Although the United States has urged OPEC to increase production to support the global economy, but Saudi Arabia has maintained its cooperation with Russia despite criticism. Prince Abdulaziz highlighted that the joint oil output cuts agreed upon by the Saudi Arabia and Russia demonstrate the strength of their collaboration and address skepticism. Prince Abdulaziz also assured that OPEC is committed to supporting the market and stated that the alliance will take necessary measures. The International Energy Agency expects the oil market to tighten in the second half of 2023 due to the OPEC Plus cut. While Saudi Aramco's Chief Executive Officer Amin Nasser expressed optimism about mid-term demand growth, analysts at Morgan Stanley reduced their oil price forecast, citing a surplus in the first half of 2024 due to non-OPEC supply outpacing demand. United Arab Emirates Energy Minister Suhail Al-Marouzi stated that the additional oil cut should be sufficient to balance the market, and the United Arab Emirates would not contribute further as it is already producing below its capacity. He also emphasized the importance of attracting new countries to join the group to ensure sufficient oil supply in the future. And now we get to China, as China's tech giant Alibaba Group Holding Limited has received support from its home province, Xinjiang, to develop artificial intelligence, AI, and the digital economy. Xinjiang has entered into a cooperation agreement with Alibaba, aiming to create a favorable business environment for platform economy firms and promote innovations in AI. Although the support comes from a provincial government rather than the national government, a separate statement from the State Administration for Market Regulation shows that the national regulator endorses Xinjiang's leadership in platform economy innovation trials. These developments indicate official backing for Alibaba's initiatives, especially considering the recent regulatory actions taken against the company. Chinese policymakers have been emphasizing the need for innovative digital applications to support economic growth. Alibaba's Chief Executive Officer, Danny Zhang, who signed the agreement with local government officials, highlighted that the digital economy is entering a new era with the widespread adoption of AI. He expressed Alibaba's dedication to transforming Zhejiang into a world-class digital economy cluster by leveraging its technology platform. Additionally, in response to competitive pressure after OpenAI incorporation advancements with ChatGPT, Alibaba is integrating its legal language model across its various business lines to enhance the user experience. This strategic partnership with its home province signifies Alibaba's commitment to driving technological advancement and fostering the digital economy within China. And that's the size of business news. Let's move on now to the stock markets around the globe. All right, now, so to talk about stock market, we will then sit with our analysts as we look at Nigerian stock market as well as other markets within the African region, as well as US and Europe. Stay tuned.
Having supported media organizations in sub-Saharan Africa over the last 20 years, I've identified loads of gaps. And I wonder why a lot of media organizations find it difficult to meet those gaps, because these are things we go through every day as human beings. What media is meant to do is to help you move from one level to the next. That is what Soup News is about to do. We're about to touch you and bring development, make it simple, help you understand the little things you need to do, both with your business and other life, to move to the next level. It's about development. It's about business. It's about economy. It's about taking you from where you are now, giving you trends, giving you analysis, backed by research and data, something that you've never seen before, but is right there in front of you. Soup News, taking you to the next level you need to be in your business life, your development life, and overall economy.
Thanks for staying. So I have Latif Jimbo, who's a stockbroker, to look at trading yesterday at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Welcome to the show. Good morning. All right, so yesterday, it's like magic happened. From a dip that happened on Tuesday, yesterday the markets bounced back, and there was an increase by 133% on the all-share index, and it rose above 60,000 that it was on Tuesday. What happened?
What really happened? There is no magic. It's not like it's expected. And you look at it, what happened was the profit taken. And when you're taking profit, that's adjusted, and that's just account for that a little downward swing in the market as at Tuesday. But you can see the upward trend as at towards the market, where's the market, and you can look at it that investors are realigning their position in the market. You know, the other one was for profit taking, which eventually reduced the number of the stock because they are more of the seller than the buyer. So all this thing has an effect. That's like demand and supply sometimes has effect on the market. So now what we are saying now is that if you look at the trade yesterday, the investors are rebalancing their portfolio, they are realigning their portfolio. So you can see, and they're trying to take advantage of, the second quarter of the financial statement of the company for the second quarter will be rolling out soon. I mean, we are in July. Yes. So people are taking position. And if you look at the driver of the value yesterday, the value index, the big wig like MTN, they drove the market yesterday, apart from the banking and consumer index, or the industrial, whatever index. To do that, if you look at it, the sentiment is still the same. It's just like what happened the day prior to this session was that there was a kind of exception in the market that people are taking profit. So has effect on the, but that does not, and the market sentiment is just the same. So we expect the upswing, not because the policies environment is still very, very conducive for the investors. So people are taking advantage of that to invest, to take position, to take advantage of the next movement in the market. People are really looking at it, and that's why people invested more. And all you need to do is to look at those value stocks you need to invest in. So those are the ones that actually drove the market. That's all.
Okay, you mentioned upswing. So taking it from there was an upswing indeed, as we had 42 gainers compared to the previous trading day where we had just 30 gainers. Now, among the top gainers, we had Learn Africa, Goodbrew, Chelam, John Holtz, Japol Gold, Omatech.
That's on go. That is on one sector of account. That's the consumer. We have further from the, like for instance, from the oil and gas, we have Conor that grew by 5.68. Although Internal and Nadova, they went down a little. We have played like a industrial index too, which are like a Boa Cement, WAPCO. They have a very fantastic movement yesterday. And in the back sector, we have Accessco, Salin, and UBA giving us a positive say yesterday, apart from the Fidelity and Unit that make losses. So, you know, it depends on the sector that you were reporting on. We have various sectors of maybe the banking sector, insurance sector, or whatever. But all these sectors are very, very important based on the sentiment toward that particular, like oil and gas. We're expecting oil and gas to, because yesterday I think that was FNL, one FNL sort of, there was a sign by Tinubu, President Tinubu yesterday, which give an avenue to the investor that look at this place and look at this particular sector, something going to be happening there soon. So people are looking at various ways to actually place their investment. So these are the things we look at, apart from the fundamentals, are there, the technical tools that are there. But the analysts will look at the two together. Doesn't mean that because they are fundamental, because there are information that might not return to the market. Some investment have gone in, and that one they can use it to get the market, and then drive the volume in that market.
So let's talk about volume of trade. Yesterday, volume of trade actually declined by 24%, and there was also a 16% decline in turnover. But particularly about volume of trade, we find that even in other markets, talking about Nairobi markets, Malawian markets, and also even the South African markets, when you find that the market is positive, but the volume of trade when compared to volume of trade in other markets, maybe the Nigerian market, for instance, is still very low, but the market ends up being positive. What does that say?
What is happening here? Look at we talk of volume and the value. They are two different things. A volume is the number of the deals that are being made, has no price value. But in terms of the value, we are talking of the price. And if you look at the stock market, it depends on what kind of stock are you trading on. For the fact that I have a policy doesn't mean that they are better than all. It depends on if for instance, if the value that are being traded in my market, like for instance, in Nigerian bonds now, we are trading look at it about 8.4 something, which is down by 15.57%. That doesn't mean that we are not doing fine. But for the fact that we are doing that doesn't mean that other that be on negative. I mean, there are more stock on the market.
No, the issue isn't about whether or not the Nigerian market is doing fine. The question actually is, when you have a market that is positive, but the volume of trade is quite low, what does that say about the markets itself?
It's positive. That's why I said that even if it's positive, I mean, there are more trading stock in that market. Okay. People in Nigeria now, maybe people are still holding stock. Holding stock means that there are no more, and I told you there is supplies and demands. If the supply surpasses the demand, it affects the price. It could affect the movement in the stock market itself. So in the other climate, like South Africa or Kenya, if certain sector grow that particular market, and the prices are very, very juicy. So I think those are the areas that I think I want us to look at. It's not in terms of whether they are doing, but what kind of stock are being traded on this particular. So you have to really differentiate between, we have a bonds market, they are all under, the ETS market is there. They're under, like, not only equities are being traded in the international stock exchange. So we need to really distinguish those things.
Okay. Now let's look at the price of shares, as some shares actually gained yesterday. You know, you were talking about the time for investment. You mentioned that on the edition yesterday, that this is the right time for a lot of investors to buy shares because some prices have actually gone down. But now that some stocks actually gained, for Len Africa, they had a 9.97% gain. Goodberry had 9.95% gain. Now, so when is the right time to buy? Because it could go down today, it could go up tomorrow.
No, you don't, like I said, if you're an active investor, you don't look at whether, you look at it, you may look at the long, okay, it doesn't mean that the price is always fluctuating.
Yes, about the fluctuation. So what then should an investor consider?
It's for you to look at the share that outperform the markets in terms of what are underpriced. No, there's a way an investor will look at the market based on the fundamental. Maybe financial statement, I will know that this market, it may not, this information is not in the domain of the public. But the investor will look at the financial statement, look at the variables together, way to conjure those variables together. With what this, you can do a balance sheet, for instance. So look at what, okay, did they have a project at hand? Even if the price is moving up, but if they have a product that can, in the near future, increase that price, they have to enter that market. Than be a dozen. You just have to do something. In the market, you don't fold your arm. You have to do something. And in the market, you have to look at, for instance, you have to look at the shares that actually outperform the market and decide look at underpriced shares. Like for instance, when there was yesterday, there was a profit taking, definitely there's going to be price adjustment. When there's a price adjustment, it has effect on the share price. And all these things are what the analysts will look at. They'll now give the investor, okay, this is the way I think you should go. You can look at this topic. I can tell you, go for this because this topic is, well, for the fact that MTN is still having a high price, you can still invest, you can still enter because we expect over a long time the price to sustain that momentum. Because it's not, I can decide to go and buy one penny stock, the price, it might not move.
All right, now let's move to the global commodity markets. Now, according to OPEC Plus, the target for Brent crude actually was between $80 to $100, but it's still around $76 per barrel at the markets.
It depends on, like I told you, the global research, when you talk of the commodity, what drives it? You know, there are a lot of laws that guides particular, as though some areas, like Saudi Arabia and all those, there was a deal between Saudi Arabia and Russia as to what quota. But you see, if you don't have enough to put into the market, if the maybe they give a seal or the capital at 80 or whatever, but we are doing that. If it doesn't mean that you can't enter the market. But it depends on what you are producing. If you don't meet up what is being expected to produce, although the market itself being regulated by some OPEC, and as well there are some big players in that market that even they can surpass they can dictate the market sometimes.
But with the cuts down in outputs, the supply cuts, it was anticipated or hoped by OPEC Plus that cutting supply would actually boost the price of Brent crude. But that hasn't really happened. So what then should
I don't want to agree with that. Cutting supply it depends on what, except we have excess supply of crude oil in the market. We don't have, it's still market, we're still having it's a very big, huge market that needs to, but what I'm saying, that there are key players that, we call them, they are the key players that, so apart from the OPEC being regulating being the regulator of that market, there are other key players that dictates. So for the fact that you are under supplying or over, does not really market. It's a huge market. It just depends on, even if you can, there's a little bit of politics in it. If you can still be among that 80 barrel per day, you can still supply. But if your supply is not up to, that is actually nobody's. I don't think it's anybody's. That is because it's you that you were not able to meet up with the OPEC quotas. The OPEC quota is very standard and it's there.
Okay, so it doesn't affect the price of
I don't
crude
think
at the end of the day.
Because, like I said, there's no growth in the market.
Okay.
If there's no growth, I don't see. As I said, if you look at the market, the international market in commodities, apart from the supply or the demand, there's a little bit of politics going on, international politics on it.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
All right, thank you very much, Lateef Jumo, for being on the show today. We've got a quick break, and then we will be having another discussion on an industry that you will be very interested in. Stay tuned.
Having supported media organizations in sub-Saharan Africa over the last 20 years, I've identified loads of gaps. And I wonder why a lot of media organizations find it difficult to meet those gaps, because these are things we go through every day as human beings. What media is meant to do is to help you move from one level to the next. That is what Soup News is about to do. We're about to touch you and bring development. Make it simple, help you understand the little things you need to do, both with your business and other life, to move to the next level. It's about development. It's about business. It's about economy. It's about taking you from where you are now, giving you trends, giving you analysis, backed by research and data, something that you've never seen before, but is right there in front of you. Soup News, taking you to the next level you need to be in your business life, your development life, and overall economy.
Once you've proven the concept with friends and family, reach out and grow. In my experience of studying entrepreneurial businesses, it's the human story behind them that intrigued me the most. And the story of Common Clothing by Omimi Okere is not different. Caveat, Omimi Okere is my son. He has a clothing business called Common Clothing. I recall one day coming into the foyer of our apartment at Canary Wharf. The concierge at the reception called me and handed me an envelope. He said, "Oh, is the designer in?" And I was wondering who the designer was. He said, "Oh, your son, please can you give this to him?" And inside the envelope was £250. And I asked him, "What is this for?" And he said, I bought some clothing from Common Clothing and I want to pay for them. And I was deeply touched. I was deeply touched because most times when we start an entrepreneurial business, it's the friends and family patronage that gives us the kickoff. Sometimes we forget that the business should transcend beyond friends and family, and we get bitter when we don't have continuous and sustained patronage from friends and family. But what I realized that Omimi had done was that he had left that comfort zone, that area of shelter, and he had gone to the extent of attracting customers far and wide beyond. And why this gentleman patronized him, as I came to understand, was that he took time to customize a hoodie for the gentleman who was on the plus side. And that word of mouth has spread to the extent that most of his friends were buying from Common Clothing. And I was so happy for my son. And I'll be so happy for entrepreneurs out there that are hacking away. There's a whole market there waiting for you.
Now, I mentioned that this is a sector that will interest you because it concerns your health. Now, we do know, as they say, that man proposes but God disposes. So a health emergency could arise and you may not have the finance for it at a particular time, hence the need for health insurance. I have with me Dr. Leke Oshunuyi, is a chairman, Health and Managed Care Association of Nigeria, here to talk about health insurance. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Morning, viewers.
And I also have Dr. Jayola, who is also Jayola. Apologies for mispronouncing your name. So I have Dr. Jayola, who is a medical practitioner, is also here to do justice to issues surrounding health insurance in Nigeria. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, viewers.
All right, now let's begin from health insurance, medical emergencies, and even when they are not an emergency, having quality medical care is something that everyone wishes for, but not everyone is able to pay for, hence the need for health insurance. But according to a recent study, it's reported that only about 17% of Nigerians come under health insurance. Could that actually be something that is still very true today, Dr. Leke?
17% is a gross overestimation. The figure is probably more like 5%. That means less than maybe about 10 million people in the entire country of 220 million now are covered by health insurance. No, so certainly not 17%. That's an overestimate.
So if it's less than 17%, Dr. Jayola, what's, you see different patients every now and then, from the very rich to those who are not so privileged. What do you think are the issues why a lot of persons have not come under insurance, health insurance particularly?
Usually pay out of pocket is expensive, and for better coverage of healthcare delivery in Nigeria, supposed to be through an insurance scheme. However, there might be some challenges in terms of problem advocacy and publicity. Most people are not aware that insurance is the best key for proper and effective healthcare delivery in Nigeria. So I want to believe that if most of the publicity is done at the federal level, state level, local level, the TBS so on and so forth at market level, even at the royal fathers, and they take part in this publicity, and people were able to come in into health insurance because they pay less and came through the pocket.
So Dr. Leke, how does the health insurance scheme operate in Nigeria? Can you take us through the process?
Okay. First of all, let me just give a brief description of what health insurance is. You know these contribution people do, monthly contributions?
Okay.
And then at the end of the month, somebody collects it.
Yes.
So health insurance is very similar, only that the collection is for people who fall ill during a period. All right? So a lot of people put money into one pot, and if anyone falls ill within the group, they are now treated with that money. So it's a kind of contributory scheme. So that's a simple description of health insurance.
So if one who contributes or who pays a premium for a particular package towards health insurance doesn't fall ill, maybe the person has been paying 1 year, 2 years, up to 5 years, doesn't fall ill, is that a disincentive to continue with it?
It's not a disincentive. It's the same principle as car insurance. You know, it's in case of an accident, you insure your car. No one can predict ill health. And ultimately, everyone will suffer some ill health sometime. That's why men or women, no one lives forever. They don't live forever because at a certain point in time, the body gives up. Okay? So health insurance is to mitigate that risk, to ensure that when ill health does appear unexpectedly, there's some readiness to pay for the costs of care.
Let's talk about providers. Now, there was a story coming from some certain providers at some point in time that they do not want to be part of the National Health Insurance Scheme because of the bottlenecks getting payment from the scheme. Is that correct?
To some extent, it is correct. Because in the past, paying the providers has been a challenge, a chronic issue that affects really the healthcare professionals. After attending to patients and peacefully making the patient in good condition, sending the claims, payments that are supposed to be done at the right time, get being delayed or not even being paid at all. But now, things are going to be different because NHIS now has been transferred to NHIA, and a universal health coverage that comes with policies, with rules and regulations, with penalties, that if you don't do the right thing, then consequences follow it. Of course, there are going to be a guideline of operational guidelines, which they are still working on. And by the time even the draft that we have now has stipulated some policies that need to be followed. Now it is mandatory. Then it was optional. But now everybody supposed to subscribe into healthcare insurance. However, with this one coming up, it was signed by the former president, and this is also one of the healthcare reforms of this new government, that they want to make it a priority. Even a summit that held in Abuja, the essay to the president also emphasized on this, the health insurance authority that guides the scheme. So now, when it comes operational, and it is well funded, I want to believe that so many Nigerians will also subscribe into health insurance. So that is the new thing that is coming up.
Dr. Leke, you run an HMO. What is the role of the HMO in ensuring an efficient health insurance system, or even being the bridge between the individual, the NHIS, and then the provider.
Yeah, so just to add one thing to what Dr. Jayola said, and that is that all of us in this environment should be covered by insurance. It's now mandatory for every resident of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to carry health insurance. I hope you've got yours.
Yes, I do.
Okay, fine. Now, the role of the HMO, like you said, is to be an intermediary between the payer and the provider. All right? The role of the regulator is to ensure fair play, just like a referee on a football field. Ensure fair play and growth in the industry. That's the role of the regulator. We are on the field, all right, with the stakeholders, other stakeholders, the providers, and the enrollees, the clients, the beneficiaries of the scheme. So we make sure that we have contracts with providers which would ease the journey. We have agreements and contracts with providers that will ease the journey of the main beneficiaries of the scheme, that's the enrolled. So we walk them through it, make sure that everything goes smoothly at an affordable price. But one caveat is that it's for medically necessary care. A lot of people come and say, doctor, there's one food supplement that they say is very good. Can I get it on insurance? No. It's for medically necessary care.
Taking it from there, what would you qualify as medically necessary?
Well, he has just given an example of what you are talking about, the coverage now. Traditional medicine is not an orthodox. So those cases that are inclined in such way cannot be covered. It's not under medical coverage. So it has to be pure clinical evidence practice. That is what is involved now. So you can't bring cases that are not standardized or recognized by the WHO, and you expect it to be covered under such insurance scheme.
We'll come back to that, but first, let's know the products that are available under health insurance provided by the different HMOs. What if I want to take up a cover, for instance? To what extent would the health insurance cover me? If I need to do surgery, does it also cover me? If someone has some very serious ailments, maybe cancer, for instance, does it cover treatment for that?
Okay, so the role of the HMO is to design products, plans. So there's a basket of benefits. And you can pretty much do a tailor-made arrangement. You can say, for example, that include maternity care, but don't include dental care, for example. So you can actually put together a plan. We can do a tailor-made plan for you. Just request it. But they're all priced differently.
So it depends on the request of the enrollee.
So there's some standard plans, standardized. They say, okay, we can give these things for this amount of money. All right? If you want to remove one thing from there, it reduces it. It's like coming to a marketplace. You can shop for the kind of care you want. Ultimately, the aim is to get you well under the things you've chosen. So if you don't choose, if you're a man, for example, you don't need maternity care, clearly. So you don't need it. You will never need it. So there's no point in putting it in your plan. But if you're a lady, then we have to include that. So that you would then have to pay a little bit extra for that product.
But you know that in getting insurance coverage, sometimes it is not done by the individual. Certain individuals come under a group, maybe a corporate organization, and so it's done on their behalf. They don't get to decide what they want covered or not. They just know that maybe a certain amount of what they earn monthly is taken for that purpose. So it's only at the point that they need the insurance cover. They're assuming that if I'm having the insurance coverage, then it should take care of every health need that I have, only for them to be told, oh, it doesn't cover this, it doesn't cover that. So whose responsibility is it to convey this message if you're not dealing with an individual directly?
The HR manager negotiates with the HMO. So the HR manager of any entity knows everything they're paying for and can communicate that message. So it's not the role of the HMO does not know the people that it's providing a plan for. And I must add, there's no insurance that covers everything under the sun.
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world.
Why is that?
Because there are 70,000 different disease types. It will be quite expensive. By the time you want to cover everything, you'll be rich enough to do what we call self-insurance. That means you'll be able to pay on a fee-for-service basis. Right? In other jurisdictions, there is what we call a co-payment. A sum of money that you pay so that that insurance policy is not used frivolously. So it might be as small as, for example, say 5,000 naira. Every time one requires the service, one pays that co-payment. So it's still, contribution continues. But here, we haven't really adopted that practice.
All right, now, Dr. Jagila, how much of private participation do we have in the health insurance scheme? By private participation, I mean private-owned hospitals do we have as providers under the scheme? Is it more of the public hospitals, or it's just a blend of everything?
Okay, are you talking about NHIA or HMO?
No, we're talking about the NHIA, the
private
providers. If you go to some private hospitals and you present your card, it's all you know, we don't do health insurance here, except maybe it's a private arrangement between they and maybe an HMO or an organization. But for those who are under the National Health Insurance Scheme, it seems like you don't have much of private hospitals as providers in that scheme.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've said it earlier that previously private providers have not been encouraged to subscribe into NHIS, and this are just because of the challenges that they encounter rendering services, investing in their practice, giving the best to the enrollees, and tariffs that are not even visible as of that state of economy, and still giving the best to the patient, giving the standard health care, patient gets better, submit the claim, and for the payment to come is an issue. Don't forget that it's an investment, it's business. Some of these private providers, they take loan from banks, and they must pay the money back. And if you render services and you are not being paid accordingly, then you can't progress. You can't even make your services to be of standard. Talk of quality assurance. So when you don't have enough funds to provide all this, then you cannot even render the adequate healthcare delivery that you're supposed to. But as I said, the NHI is in vogue now. You understand that my head here has said it. It's mandatory for everybody. You have no choice. You just have to. Even this, it comprises some private healthcare delivery that deliver healthcare services. Even the states, the whole now encompassed into NHIA, so that it will give universal health coverage for Nigerians to access healthcare delivery. So now that the NHIA is in vogue with proper regulatory system, monitoring and evaluation, then I want to believe that most or some of the private providers that are not yet enlisted will come in, and they don't even have any choice any longer. It's under must now. It's under must for everybody. Even your organization, you must enroll your staff. That the staff model, individuals just have to come into that scheme, and that is what our country needs for that.
So
and that is if it is well funded. And I believe that the government of today has a higher priority for that. Even less hope has been said that the budget, the health budget that will be coming will be more robust and fantastic, that everybody will be able to access healthcare delivery in Nigeria.
So getting individual participation, Dr. Leke, now that it is compulsory for everyone to take up insurance cover, health insurance cover particularly, how do you, or how would the HMO get the artisans, those who are not under any corporate umbrella, to be part of this? You can mandate organizations to say you must do this, but how do you do that? For somebody who has their own business by themselves, someone who is not under any corporate umbrella, how do you mandate them?
Okay, so this responsibility of aggregating people from the informal sector is actually under the state, the purview of the state social health insurance schemes. And you should have a look at the NHIA Act one of these days. It sets out responsibilities for all the stakeholders. So the state, the Lagos State is, the acronym is LASHMA, LASHMA, Lagos State Health Management Agency. It is their duty to actually get people into the health insurance net. And the federal government, the law proposes to pay for the care of a group of people we call the vulnerables, those who cannot afford to pay, those who are in prison, children, the elderly. You know, that law accommodates everyone. If you can't pay, government will pay for you. But if you can pay, you must pay. And that responsibility is that of the state health insurance scheme. We are then brought on to collaborate with the scheme. So in that, under that law, for the social part of it, we are going to be collaborating with the state schemes. But the private care under that law now falls under the purview of HMOs.
Okay, talking about awareness, you mentioned that it depends, it falls within the purview of the Ministry of Health of the state. So, but as a medical practitioner, if someone comes into your hospital, for instance, and they want to have access to certain medical care and they cannot afford it, is there a system in place to make them aware of health insurance and the need to come under that cover?
Yes, we do a lot of advocacy, enlightening people. You know that health insurance is the key to the best healthcare delivery in this country. And we always prepare their mind that even some of these artisans, the transporters, the unions, we have some of them that are patients. And we always tell them so that they look past what they're having meeting. That insurance is about to come. And everybody should have access to this. They should take an advantage of this so that they have quality health care. That indirectly will improve the economy of the country when you have good health. Of course, the productivity of individuals, the organizations, the governments will also improve at the same time.
So let me ask first, how affordable is health insurance?
Okay, the price of the Lagos State scheme is 8,500 naira per annum, per individual. But for families, you can come in at 40,000 naira for a family of 6. So so that's why it's called a social health insurance. Very affordable.
And is this payment done in installments? Does it allow for?
Oh yes. So they have what they call a pay small scheme. It can be accessed online, physically, or by a USSD code. And it's really a very tidy and neat arrangement.
So does this arrangement work for the sustainability of the HMOs, or it hinders the growth of the HMOs?
No, like I said, that's run by the state.
Okay, for the HMOs, how does the HMO sustain?
Okay, so the HMOs under the new law can provide supplementary care. That means we can top up the state health schemes. That's the top up. Like, oh, I don't want a general ward like under the state health scheme. I want a private ward, air conditioning, special food, special kinds of medication, all right? Or complementary, which is a standalone scheme. I don't want to use the state scheme. I want to use my own tailor-made scheme for rich individuals like you, madam. You know? So I want a tailor-made scheme. I don't want to use the state scheme, but I will pay, because it is compulsory that every private enrollee has already paid for the social. So everyone in Lagos must first pay that 8.5 before they can buy a private plan.
So is that like buying in two places?
Kind of. So the social plan is for solidarity, to say, look, I'm not going to use this, but let me pay for someone else somewhere who's going to need that care and can't afford it.
So then if you now want a customized plan, you go to an HMO.
You want a special hospital somewhere in a very upmarket area of Lagos. You want all the bells and whistles. You know, you want imported drugs, everything. Yeah, you can. But interestingly, I always liken it to a plane flight. Some people will be in the economy section. Some people will be in the business class section. Some people will be in first class. But when you get to the destination, everybody is in the same hall.
The
You know,
important
so
thing
everybody
is that
gets
you have your
there.
health needs taken care of.
That is the important thing.
All right, now on a final note, what do you think that making it mandatory for both the providers and the enrollees to get into the health insurance coverage is going to be what will move the health insurance sector forward and make sure that the health needs of everyone is taken care of? Or there's more to be done beyond the mandatory enrollment?
Thank you very much. It's not just mandating the providers, the populace, to subscribe into the scheme alone. It's more than that. This scheme is capital intensive, and that is why government needs to fund it effectively and encourage the stakeholders so that they will to their effectiveness will be able to be pronounced, so that they can do the right thing at the right time. And government alone cannot do this. Private sectors that are well to do, businessmen, banks, organizations, oil companies, and even foreign grants, they can come in to support the government so that it will be a robust program. But government cannot do it alone. So it's not only just mandating people to get enrolled. When they get enrolled and they are not functioning very well, what's the essence? But the main thing there is a well-programmed scheme so that the sustainability of it will keep on going. It will be a system that will be working for itself.
Okay, but quickly before we go, is the system arranged in such a way that it doesn't matter where you enrolled or what hospital, for instance, that you started using? If, for instance, you're anywhere in the country and you happen to have an emergency, but with that card, you can have access to medical care that is covered by insurance. Is there a system like that in place?
So ultimately, that's the holy grail. That's where we're all working towards. health insurance under one roof, wherein even if you're registered in Lagos and you happen to be in Sokoto State, you fall ill, the system is able to take care of those health needs. So there needs to be a lot of synchronization between the apex regulator under this scheme, which is the NHIA, and the subsidiary regulators, which are the state health insurance schemes, so that we can have this one cap fits all kind of arrangement. It means, of course, that the premiums, right now, the premiums across board are not the same. In Lagos, it's 8.5. In Osun, I know it's 12,000. You know, so we need to harmonize all these things so the scheme works seamlessly.
Now, in harmonizing, would that open room for more HMOs to come in to ensure the effectiveness of this?
HMOs have nothing to do with this.
It is just
it's
for
the regulators,
okay,
yeah, who will determine. For the social,
okay,
but for the private, yes, the HMOs will have their own arrangements.
Okay.
So one telephone call to almost any hospital will say, look, cover this, and really will take care of it.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show today. I have been talking with Dr. Jayola, who is a medical practitioner, on the show today. We've looked at health insurance, and also Dr. Leke Oshuni on the show today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as it's on the show, thank you for watching. I am Blessing AJ. Tomorrow will be another time on Business Insight. We'll begin with market trends, looking at also the capital markets, the stock market, and the commodity market, and then finally the industry spotlight. We've looked at the insurance sector today. You want to know what we'll be looking at tomorrow. So tomorrow will be another time. Bye.
Thank you.